Assalamu alaikum. Oh, we can do better. Good morning. All right, we get a little bit of traction. Two things about me. The one is, I love this country. I've been coming to Pakistan since 2007, and I have a very special connection to this city, Islamabad, where I probably have spent most of my time in Pakistan. So Lahoris and Karachi residents do not get offended, but I have a special connection to the city. The second one is that I love tech. And you'll see that from the presentation in a second. Thank you. Which one? Excuse me? Which one? This one? Forward?
Yeah, this is backward.
Yeah, fantastic. Very good. I'm a CPO. I'm a board member. I'm a board advisor. I'm an angel investor in tech. Today, I'm here to represent Human-Centric Labs, which is a very exciting San Francisco-based startup. Today, I'll give you a glimpse of a very large topic, 20 minutes. Yesterday in Karachi, we ran a workshop on the topic with 45 participants for 5-6 hours. So what I'm trying to say to you, there is much more to this. You know where to find me. Today, I want to give you a flavor. Today, I want to give you a snippet of the topic. What is the topic? The integration of a human and AI workforce into one. Our inspiration in Human-Centric Labs is to shape that integration into one workforce. Three things to serve: organizations, individuals, but also humanity. And we believe a highly adaptive organization creating, and we start from the financial side, not from the use case side, not from finding the nail to the hammer, non-linear returns, meaning non-steady, but returns that will actually change the dial on a P&L. I'm going to take you through why is this relevant at all? What are some of the attributes of such an integrated workforce? What's the prize, the opportunity? We call it a non-linear return. And then finally, what could a journey look like? HCL has developed a transformation framework, a process, 7 steps, and a technology that can help organizations through that journey. Gen AI, what's ahead? Someone asked me this morning, what do I mean by AI? I mean by AI everything that's in the mix at the moment. Predictive, generative, robotics, deep learning, etc., etc., machine learning, etc., etc. A tsunami is ahead, not a tide. And let that sink in. It's major, it's not incremental. 2023 saw experimenting with generative AI. We all know the names. Perplexity, ChatGPT, Claude, Bard, etc., etc. 2024 has created a massive ecosystem of AI applications across the world around consumer, enterprise, and what is prosumer. By the way, each little pixel of this is an AI application available in many different industries, in many different sections. 2025 will bring a network of agents to company, a network of agents. This is why in HCL we believe the talent in AI integration will become the key topic. And 2026, companies will change their operating model. What I mean by that, I'll come to it in a second. And so-called talent ROI. Do you have a metric today in your business where you can go to your CEO and your leadership team, or when you're part of the leadership team, to the board, that says, this is how I measure the return on my talents? We call it talent ROI. Show of hands, who's comfortable? I see not a lot of hands. It is and remains one of the key things the function needs to embrace. We believe with the change that's coming up, there's an opportunity to do so. AI is different. It's pervasive. It's a new species, like we heard from Microsoft AI, Mustafa Suleyman. which Joseph just mentioned earlier. You have to imagine it's a species, and it will get more intelligent. It will get more... Am I still? Yeah, more intelligent. It touches every aspect of an organization. By that I mean infrastructure, hardware, data, real estate, security, apps, the human side, talent, org design, culture, leadership, ethics, and very importantly, governance. Risks, the do's, the don'ts, and specifically the rules of engagement, which is who decides? We heard from Joseph, the human decides. Who sets the rules? The human set the rules, AI sets the rules, rules of engagement. So pervasive, it's everywhere. So what is the issue? What is, in every startup, you say, I'm addressing an issue. What is the issue in our view? AI and humans, it's a fundamental difference. Absorb this for a second. Managing humans and managing AI. Humans, job roles. AI use cases, services. Full-time equivalents, 24/7 scalability, availability on AI. Human empathy, a human wants empathy, to be understood, to be heard, to be listened to. On the other side, you have data, tech source. Where humans want to be engaged, the opposite is true on AI, it's maintenance. People want to be paid, want to be compensated. AI is investment and cost. Now, would you agree with me? They are fundamentally different. I see a lot of nodding, which actually means that is the issue. If AI becomes more pervasive and collaborates with humans in an organization. So that then means the integration challenge is to adapt at pace in an organization, and Farhad, we had this discussion this morning, to cope with the rapid advance of AI, but not to find the use case, the nail for the hammer, but to start from a financial point of view to say, what is it I would like? Efficiency, productivity, or do I want innovation? Do I want speed? Very, very different things. I'm going to continue on what's the issue I'm addressing. We believe that the 20th century operating model is not sustainable. Why? I'll come to right now. But as a consequence, the current operating model is unable to sustain the pace to leverage AI. We have two sides to the triangle. We have management. Management is supposed to motivate. Management is supposed to be motivated. Often, what do we see in reality? Demotivation and waste. Why? Complexity created through layers, processes, communication that sometimes doesn't go through the organization. On the other side, we have talent. Talent, key critical role is one thing. Executing strategy to create value. Sounds pretty harsh, right? Doesn't do the human piece, but that's not what I'm trying to say. The reality is talent's purpose is to create value in the organization. What do we see very often? We see disengagement, we run surveys, i.e. we don't have the engagement scores we want, we see loss of talent. Why is that? Usually one main reason, that capabilities are not aligned to where growth and need is. I have people who are very capable, but actually sometimes they're actually not deployed to do the things that really matter for me for the business, because I want to grow the business, the top line, and also the bottom line. What does it do? It creates stress in the organization. And stress in the organization means negative impact on performance. Absorb this for a second. That's what we have today. That's our operating model. A lot of management, a lot of layers, talent that's supposed to create value, but we have it misaligned. So, if that is the issue, fundamental difference between AI and humans, an operating model that doesn't work, what could the vision be? We formulated it in a way today that we say talent and AI, we call it always plus AI, collaborating, we heard that, in a value chain producing nonlinear return. And I come to the value chain in a second. This is how we could imagine it. At the top, you have today, we describe work. People are cost, and what metrics are we using? I asked you the question before. It's often a very big question mark. In the new world, and I'll go through that in a second, we propose that work is defined as service, that AI has a human equivalence expressed in cost of FTE of the human, and that value is measured, not cost. Value created, and we'll describe how we describe value. That was not very good. We describe how we define value. So, from our point of view, humans and AI collaborating occurs when AI either augments my capability or it replaces. What are some of the attributes of this vision? First, can I ask you, if I go to your organization today and I say, give me your common language, how you define work, how many answers would I get? In one organization, probably a plethora. Activity, task, responsibility, activity, I don't know. So, it's important for a baseline to describe a common language of work. Secondly, work moves from being activity to service, measured in value. And thirdly, the organization needs to change from a very hierarchical way along the value chain. I will explain that in a second. Common language, define work as it is currently probably not defined to service value, organize along value chain. How does that work? All work, we believe, needs to be defined as a value exchange. That has someone that demands the work and someone that supplies the work, and there's a service piece in the middle. We don't think about it this way in organizations. We think about it as functions, tasks, responsibilities. If you fundamentally shift your thinking and saying, for everything in the organization there needs to demand, and there's an end customer at the end, and a supplier. If that demand doesn't serve a customer, in our view, it shouldn't exist. Because then it doesn't create value, it's only cost. And rethinking your organization in that way will then lead to the value that I mentioned earlier, and the financial people in the room and the CEOs know very well that we think about margin contribution, which is very simple. It's the service, it's the value that human and AI talent create, less its cost. That's what you call margin contribution. So all of a sudden, supply demand, you measure a margin contribution, and work goes to service, cost goes to the FTE, and metric goes to value. And then finally, every finance person here in the room will understand that you can't do a financial planning model without being able to plan the humans and potentially AI in the future. So this is why we believe there has to be the AI equivalence, the human equivalence for AI, very simply expressed as the percentage of cost the human would cost you, plus maintenance, plus technology. Then you can make informed decisions whether you want to invest or not. Talent ROI is one of the other attributes. I asked you earlier, do you have a measure where you could very comfortably say, yes, I can go to my board, I can go to my CEO and say, this is the return on my talent. Talent ROI, a definition, is the return on human capital as measured by the talent contribution, brackets margin contribution, to revenue less cost. Who knows in this room today of your people in your teams who contributes to revenue? And by the way, it's not that it's frontline, back office, mid office. Front office, back office, mid office, all need to contribute to an endpoint which is creating service for a customer, revenue. That's a formula which you can take a photo of. It's according to the formula of the Global Institute of Talent of ROI. So it's service value divided by labor plus AI cost, which gives you a metric, a percentage. Service value is defined as the revenue minus non-labor cost. Why? Because this revenue needs to be the one generated by talent and AI. And then we have other costs in the organization, like marketing costs, we heard that, etc., which you need to deduct to come to the true value of talent-generated service revenue. So service margin means service value minus labor and AI costs. And I'm going fast, and I told you it's a snippet. It's huge degree of work underneath, financial models, etc. So it's a snippet today. So in the end, what it means, maximizing your talent ROI, if you can do this, but remember, one of the prerequisites is moving to service. If you don't achieve moving work to service, all of this doesn't work. So talent ROI means maximizing service margin contribution. So all of a sudden you can say, if I maximize my talent ROI, I will actually maximize the contribution to the business measured by a margin contribution. Very different to say, oh shite, the budgets go up and inflation is X. This is a very, very different measure. Another attribute of the vision is that we think from a 2D operating model over time, and this is time, but you have to have a vision. We think we will shift into a 3D operating model. Today, why do we call it 2D? Since hundreds of years, revenue divided by labor has been the way we measure productivity in an organization. It's hierarchical. It flows from budget, cost, FTE. And in this organization, I think you would probably agree with me. I'll just step aside for a second. 80% of decisions are being made hierarchical, 20 probably empowered in the teams. My guess, very representative for Pakistan, which I know very well, where I know the culture very well. And drivers, this is the important part I mentioned before. Drivers were efficiency, scale, and productivity, and that's entirely okay. If that is still where you generate your business, how you grow your business by efficiency, scale, productivity, it works. But a 3D operating model doesn't measure revenue, it measures the service value, which is the contribution margin I mentioned earlier, divided by the labor plus AI. And actually, a hierarchical cost structure goes to customer value chains. So think about it this way. I'll give you a little example. This little section here. So there's an end customer, say, it's a contracts renewals business, so contracts need to be reviewed. That's the end customer. There is a demander here that says, I need a legal review of a contract. And then there's a supplier here, potentially a legal function. In the future, the question will be, who authorizes that legal review? And is the legal review being done by AI? Comparing, for instance, a benefit sheet vis-a-vis a contract. This is why we're saying the demand is then being sort of filled by humans plus AI, etc. So this flattens the organization, and what it does is the following. It makes the fact that decisions, that's a vision, whether it's 70-30 or 80-20, will flow into the value chain and can be made by teams empowered. For instance, today, managers being moved in here as part of these agile units of work. But the drivers are very different. If your drivers are adaptability, innovation, and talent ROI, this is an organization model that will help you absorbing the rapid advance of AI. If you're going to stay in these structures, like on the left-hand side, I had a conversation, okay, you're using ChatGPT in your organization, you're paying a license fee, do you know what it does? Who uses it? How much? How many? Does it achieve productivity? Does it achieve? Yes, it does. Can we quantify it? No, not really. This remains in this efficiency, scale, and productivity side. Here, you will integrate it because actually you measure the service value. Probably this overview isn't very, very good for this audience because I think it's extremely high level, but I said we ran a business case, a case study, a software as a service company, SaaS company, integrating talent AI with a revenue of 120 million, growing to 150 by 2026. So 24, 26, so you're talking 18 months or so. There's this yellow which says, if you move to this operating model along the value chain, and then there's the integration of AI, we think the growth of FTE, which we calculated for this business, is not that it goes down. And don't think replacement is the topic, but it will grow much, much slower. On the margin side, we believe you can actually, for instance, you can look at major margin increases up to 40%. And then we measure this talent ROI to give you a practical example, and we think you can shift it probably from 0.35 to 0.5, which is transformational. It's not incremental. Now, all of this is underpinned by a lot of data, it's underpinned by a model, but what I'm trying to say, there is potentially non-linear growth involved if you change to 3D, if you change to proper integration of AI. The 7 steps technology based on HCI has a phase 1, and it's very clear you have to create a baseline. If you don't know where you start from to improve, it doesn't work. And in the baseline, you see all this, but practically it's clarifying the work as a service, its value, and actually focus on what's to improve. And Farhad, this is probably one of the things, where is your biggest pain point? Can you improve with the inclusion of AI? Rather than to say, okay, I need to think of a use case. Where are my pain points? Where can I improve productivity? Phase 1. Phase 2 would then have another 3 steps, and that would actually be depending on, are you ready for the integration of AI? You can't start this journey before you have a baseline. What I'm trying to say to you, we've developed these 7 steps underpinned by a system. And the journey could look like this. I'm making a very important point here with this second part. So you see the timeline, 2024, 2026, but this piece here in the middle, you cannot do this at scale to start with. It has to be a proof of concept. Very often, IT is a very good function to try and test 3D, service value, supply, demand, talent, ROI, and customer service. These 2, as proof of concept, which we've run with HCL, are very good. Leadership and cultural alignment is critical. We heard it from Joseph. I'll come to that in a second, one slide. And then all I want to demonstrate here is that you're practically talking of a journey 28 to 24 months to really come to a different operating model. It isn't going to happen overnight. No way. I'd be foolish to stand here and say you can do this in 6 to 8 months. Maybe a digitally native business, yes, but not businesses that I think have to manage a current business and then transition into a digital world. And we think the results will be unfair competitive advantages because you're ahead. Faster to market, top line growth of potentially better than today, X, and a high value workforce. A high value workforce that is less disengaged because it actually does things it wants to do in a value chain rather than being asked to do things it doesn't do. I'll close with key leadership and culture challenges to address specifically in this operating models. We heard fundamental difference, and I showed this at the beginning. The ones who heard me speaking at CONNEX last year, and I will repeat this, it's the ambidexterity of a leader. You have to be in the here and now. You must manage your current operation. This is where you generate your cash flow. This is where you generate your income. But you have to be in the innovative side as well. You have to try and move up, including AI, to be a leader that balances both. Where are you going to invest? More into AI technology or upskilling your talent? Some would say, but actually, I'm going to set all my money on AI. I think it's wrong. Otherwise, displacement, otherwise disengagement will increase. So where is that right balance for you is a key challenge for the leaders, including the HR people. And this one is a key one. The manager role of today in the world of AI will evolve. It will shift much more to a coaching mindset, but based on very strong AI-informed data and decision-making. Take performance reviews, right? You, as a manager, will be the person to provide the feedback. You will receive feedback potentially in a 180 degree, but it will be not that you have to assemble all the data. It will be based on data that flows to you and which has been partially analyzed, which of course you can do your thing. So it's a fundamental shift. You won't spend the time on assembling, you will spend the time on the empathy and the coaching element. If you don't address and mitigate the fear of AI to prevent disengagement, you will fail. And it's wrong to assume it's not there. It is everywhere. Because media talks about replacement of roles. I'm personally of the opinion that it will create as many new roles as it potentially will displace, as has been the case in the time of internet. Could you imagine 3-4 years back that there is a role of influencer making money by showing what you dress, how you dress, and your makeup? Did you ever think of that, making money? No. So there is going to be transformational shift in terms of new roles, and I think it will take place here. But you have to address it proactively. Collaboration skills, I heard, will become more important. Why will they become so much more? If you flatten the organization, you think you eliminate silos. Maybe you do, but the value chain has agile units of work which combine teams on an agile project-based way, and therefore collaboration will become more important. And finally, train talent to work alongside AI. What does that mean? Do I give the commands? Do I take the final decision? What are the rules of engagement between myself and having an AI agent working next to me? Two things on mindset, which are at the top. So one was leadership and mindset. I would say be ahead of the game, because it is a tsunami, it's not a tide. But be specific, create your baseline, address your pain points, and do a phase one. But be ahead of the curve. And then ultimately, what needs to be in your mind, can I gain unfair competitive advantage through implementing an AI strategy and a combined workforce? Otherwise, don't bother. It's fine to stay analog. You have to have the mindset of, I want an unfair competitive advantage out of this. If not, don't waste the money. So getting started, there would need to be a strategy session, the POC, you have to prove the benefits. Scaling is important, operating model, and talent ROI non-linear. There's a whole team behind HCL. These are just the 5 people on the leadership team. Experts in AI like Catherine. Reddy is an operator. He's worked for Autodesk. He's implemented AI strategies. Myself, Stan, and Micheal. He is the founder and the tech guy of Human-Centric Labs. So as I said, it was a snippet. It was fast. Many new concepts, but you know where to find me. And we can expand. Thank you.
Before we take questions from the audience, I was just wondering, Joseph, do you have any question for Micheal?
No, come on.
Not right now?
Come on, Joseph. Come on.
All right. From the audience, do we have some question from Micheal? All right. We have one hand raised. We would request our usher to please.
With pleasure. And it has to be a difficult question, of course, because Joseph didn't ask for it.
Hi, Assalamu alaikum everyone. Hi, Micheal. Welcome to Pakistan once again. This is Zishan from Jazz.
Zishan, could you please speak a bit louder? We can't hear you on stage.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Right. Assalamu alaikum everyone, and welcome back to Pakistan, Micheal. Always a pleasure attending your sessions. We learn something new every time. So I do understand this philosophy of 2D to 3D AI integration into the business. But I think most organizations that are present here today are not that advanced in that concept, right? Yeah. So the journey is just starting here in Pakistan. Agreed. But since you're coming in with a global perspective, can you give us a very relatable example of a non-digital native organization that's way ahead in the curve towards the 3D? Thank you.
Well, First of all, always a pleasure to talk to my friends and colleagues from Jazz. Those who know me a little better know that part of Vion, part of the Jazz family, so I know them very well. And by the way, you are actually quite advanced in Jazz, so you should rather consider this. But it's a very good question. In ACL, we work with a healthcare company in the US, and they operate clinics, hospitals, testing facilities, so something that exists everywhere in the world. But they started rather early to use AI in triage in the hospital, in terms of patient plans, et cetera, So they jumped on that very early. I think it's an industry which is very prone to be considered to that. And we are working with them on that. So it's a very tangible example. My own view is, and I had a lot of colleagues from Engro in the audience yesterday at the workshop in Karachi. I think manufacturing, some people would say, well, no, this never works in manufacturing. No, it's just the hierarchical way we decided to implement in a manufacturing organization. Think about the opportunity of integrating AI in a manufacturing, particularly in a process industry, such as maintenance. The maintenance side today is done by people who walk the plant. They do inspections, they do checkbox, tick boxes, maybe supported by a system in the future. This can be done by drones. Drones are available 24/7. Cleaning of solar panels is another one in other industries. So I'm trying to say to you, it's not old and new industry. It really is, where is the opportunity? And they usually start from a productivity and efficiency point of view. And as I said here, for me, that's the phase one. So healthcare and process industries are probably very prone. Cement, for instance, the cement industry, and we have our wonderful platinum sponsors here today, 4G with also the cement assets. Very best way, very clearly cement in terms of process improvement and AI in that chain of the kilns, of burning, incineration, etc. Tremendous opportunity. So what I'm trying to say to you is not about whether you're an industry that's traditionally viewed as conservative or non-conservative. It is about the model that we have decided to give it to operate it. Does that make sense? One more question would be very nice. Gentleman here. I can't really see that well.
My name is Ejaz Nisar. I am also a student of human psychology and the president of CEO Club Pakistan. In the January, I attended World Economic Forum, Davos, and I had the opportunity to learn a lesson from Jack Ma. He was the keynote speaker at the Davos. He was talking about the AI, and he showed his fear at the end of his speech. My fear is not machines will think like human beings, but my fear is humans will think like machines. In the interaction of the human psychology, the emotional intelligence as well as the artificial intelligence, what is the role of emotional intelligence? That is the key, because we are humans. We are not going to be the machines. We have the hearts, not the chips. So please, I need your take on human AI as well as EI.
Yeah. I personally believe it will become a differentiator of people in the job market, in the way they can say, I can demonstrate emotional intelligence. Why is that? Because machines will take over AI algorithms, and machines always sounds very technical. Algorithms will take over many things. So the ability to have empathy, which is defined as the key element of EQ, will become more important. More and more important. You saw my coaching analogy. I think so. Companies are extremely well advised to invest more in building emotional intelligence with their staff today. Practically speaking, hopefully there's an integrated workforce at some stage. You, as individuals, I think, should do a lot of self-learning. There's so many coaching models out there. You should train, you should learn. to really market and get your degree of emotional intelligence up and running. So it's more important than ever. So I think it's artificial intelligence serving humanity and not the other way around, right? That's the second part which you asked. So the role of artificial intelligence should be the species, which I mentioned earlier, that actually serves and supports humanity, not the other way around. That's my personal vision. I know there is cognitive and generative AI out there, which is rapidly starting to self-train and self-learn, and at some stage probably too fast to our wishes. So the big question is, how do you contain that from a governance point of view? Politicians will be asked, governmental frameworks will be important in the sense of application. I think the EU has already issued, if you're interested, a digital act. As they are over-regulating, very detailed, in which industry can be used, what, when do you need to inform. So that's also a sign of the development of that side, that EQ is supposed to be the decision maker, and AI is the one that supports humanity, but it needs to be somewhat regulated.
Thank you, Michael. Thank you. We would now be heading towards another activity. So.